Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the virtual living room of the Game Changer Movement. Today, I am here with Antika Lisha, and I am Eric Lehman, and we're going to have a conversation about the evolution of the Game Changer Movement and the evolution of what it means to be a parent nowadays.
Yeah.
So I'd just love to open that conversation with Antika, and we're both in this world of just wanting the best for our kids, and I feel like one of the best ways that we can create the change we want in our world as well as in our communities is to find better ways to meet our kids and everyone that we're trying to relate with exactly where they are. And so when here we are in the Game Changer Movement, the only way to do that is to meet our kids in the game space and to talk to them from a place of acceptance and love in that. So, I mean, tell me what your experience is, Antika, about that world and how it relates to your parenthood.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for asking. As a parent, I have two kids. They are in the age where electronics is a really big deal. And I think it is for most kids. I had a person over today just doing an interview, teaching me stuff about Toastmasters and speaking. And she's like, wow, you have an iPad? And my daughter goes, yeah. And we have a computer and we have an iPhone. And there was a piece of me that felt ashamed. I was like, oh. And then I was like, no, like they use them for school. And that phone is so I can get a hold of her when she's at her dad's. And then my kids are on my bed next to each other playing Minecraft, and I have to say, go clean the kitchen, get off your iPads and clean the kitchen, do this, do that. And they get off when we go to the lake. I make it a point to really do stuff with my children one-on-one. But when we're home, like more than not, they're on their iPads, even more so than watching a show or anything, creating things, drawing things, making a movie, and sitting next to each other going, where are you? Where are you? That wasn't my reality at all when I was a kid. And much like it wasn't my grandmother's reality to listen to rock and roll and the Beatles when my mom was growing up, and she wasn't into Elvis. So it was like, no way. And for my mom and me, like, hip hop dancing. So, and stuff like that. So I feel like this is the next generation, and we really have a choice as parents to meet our kids where they're at, and they're into electronics. They're into these digital media things. And then what we do have control over, though, is what we produce as a society into those games, what we're training our kids to think about, and how we're numbing our kids to violence and derogatory wording and stuff like that. So it's my intention here to really create a safe space for all of us to know, yeah, we're the parents. It's not about making the kids wrong. It's not about getting rid of the video game or the industry at all. It's really about teaming with it and collaborating together and finding a way that we can find this beautiful balance of how do we utilize this new world to really create a better world.
Yeah, and I feel like there are already stories within the Game Changer Movement 2-year history that are alluding to this, and the reason that this movement needs to be a national and eventually global movement kind of stems from one memory that happened early on as we were creating art in Ithaca, New York, made out of repurposed violent video games. And I was so excited to be presenting this workshop based, talking about social entrepreneurship and what does it mean to care about something and to like know that you care, learn that you care, and then act on what you care about, and then see what you care about turning into something in real life. And it
Yeah.
was going so well. And I was so excited, and I was thinking, oh, this has its own energy. And then I was faced with a beautiful contrast that will, that raised the ante of what this movement gets to be in the world. Because as we transition from that conversation to actually creating the art, what we are actually going to be calling conversation pieces, spelled PEACES.
Yeah.
I had 20 high school students raring to go. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw these 2 students just not engaging at all. And so as the other students were making the pieces of art, I took the other 2 aside and I said, what's going on? And then one of them looked me square in the eye. One young man looked me square in the eye, and he said, Eric, violent video games saved my life. And I'm so grateful that I was in the energy I was in, because instead of like kind of saying, what are you, nuts? Instead of just being reactive and squashing what he was about to share with me, I opened up with a probing question, and I said, tell me more about that. I said, what do you really mean? Because I want to hear you. And he opened up in a way that I never thought he would, but it was so profound. He said, Eric, my mom is mentally ill and my dad is always stoned. And the only thing that is consistently there for me is the community that I find in my headset when I play my game.
Wow.
And he was always there 24 hours a day. And I can't say the same for my parents. And that's when I knew, like, this needs to be like non-adversarial. Like, until we have a mega replacement for the game, until we have something to hand these kids in exchange for the game that is in some ways saving their lives, but in some ways depositing a toxin at the same time, we need to change our game even more, and we need to learn more and listen more and create collaborative processes so that kids can feel engaged and feel that they matter right now. We always tell our kids, you have to be 14 to work, you have to be 16 to drive, you have to be 18 to vote. And like already these kids are making a difference in the world by joining these communities, by creating their own world. And then, am I going to show up and tell them they can't even play? That? Like that's not how a national or international or global movement is going to be created. So I'm just, I want to have this conversation to talk about how the Game Changer movement is changing in and of itself. So, it's just, to start out with a 5-year plan and just, set up metrics and all these milestones and things like that. That's the old way of doing things. But when you have stories like what happened in Ithaca, New York happen, the game has to change from that conversation on. Yeah. So that's what I'm excited about. And that's why we are creating this virtual living room, so that eventually we want to create a mobile living room and touch hearts and lives, on the road and be with you all. Yeah. But until we have the resources to make the mobile living room happen, we want to be engaged in this conversation with you all now. So
absolutely. And we're raising the resources. We have our link here on the side for Indiegogo over here. So you can look up Indiegogo.com. You can look up Game Changers Movement and read more about it. Get some wonderful gifts from us, big thank yous, and take the pledge, share with 3 friends, and help us get this show on the road, literally. Another thing that is just really cool that we could do that we've been talking about, which is really exciting, is creating a space where we utilize the gaming industry to solve world problems. And this already started to happen, and it was so inspiring to hear about how we can one, put all the minds of youth to use with major purpose to make the world a better place. Because as you know, more and more people know about how our mind works now. It wasn't something that we really studied many years ago or even talked about, but there's so much talk about subconscious and unconscious programming now. And if you haven't heard of it, go on YouTube and just look it up. Like, it's really amazing how much what we listen to and the stimuli that we put into our bodies affects our subconscious and unconscious mind, and literally like creates our reality around us. So to create a better, safer world, a healthier world, a cleaner world, whatever we want to create, we can really start in the gaming industry by helping our children think of creative ways or utilize their minds that are so open and so creative and not in any box yet, to help us solve some of these huge problems in the world. And you had a beautiful example of that. I can't remember exactly what it is. Will you share it with us?
Well, I mean, I think there are more and more examples showing up every day. So there's two that I want to highlight. One is so the scientific community was wrestling with, you know, what really makes HIV, you know, do all the damage that it does, and they realized that the answer to this question lies in how a protein is folded, and the more efficiently a protein can be folded, in a way, sort of like the more damage it can do when it replicates in you know, the environment to like mess with our immune system. So there was just like a big challenge, like how do we figure out how to create these proteins so that they are the most efficient possible, you know, in trying to create vaccines and cures. So this was a question that was challenging the scientific community for over 15 years. And one researcher decided, you know what, why don't we challenge the crowd? You know, crowdsource the answer to this. So he created a game called Fold It, which was a 3D imaging game that showed people how to fold proteins. And he just, you know, asked just the question, like, how do we fold this protein in the most efficient way? And then just threw that out in the gaming world. What happened thereafter was 350 to 400,000 people played this game, and a challenge that was plaguing, in a way, the scientific community for 15 years was solved in 3 weeks. And it was solved by someone who is an administrative assistant in England. She works for a not-for-profit, and she is the world's best protein folder. And the second best is actually an 11-year-old in the States.
See, you never know when God deposited like air in somebody, and this is how we can get that information, is by utilizing this technology. So it's not a war on this. And we have so many great ideas. So many great ideas. And I know that we're just doing short little conversations here, and I've been eyeing the time because I have to get to my kids. And so I just want to invite everybody to keep an eye on us on our Facebook page, Game Changers Experience on Facebook, and join us in this conversation. And let's find a way that we can come together as parents, form those bonds with our kids. When you pay attention to somebody or something consecutively for 15 minutes, that person feels so full. Just think about the last time somebody looked into your eyes and gave you their attention, even if it was 5-10 minutes. It's like you just feel full. I know that. And it doesn't take much to allow our children to feel special and important. And I think equally as they need to get off the machines, we need to get off the machines, because I know I'm like plagued at times. I'm like, you know, I'm here right now. Like, so we need to get off the machines and just experience one another so we don't become a morphed world. But then on the machines, we need to be able to like we need to control them and not have them control us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really true. And I think just getting back to the game changer movement, like just like the essence of it is that it's the word with and not the word for. So what we want to do is we want to create conversations with parents and youth, and we want to create games, alternative games with our youth rather than for them. So, you know, one of the platforms that we're going to create is a way for the first bold youth who are ready and willing to trade in a violent video game. They're going to be invited to the creation process itself. And that is so exciting because, you know, that's how we build buy-in, and that's how we build a national and eventually global community. And so I'm just so excited that this living room is virtual. I'm sitting surrounded by some of the real art that we created out of the violent video games. And, you know, that's just one manifestation of this movement. But what we really want to offer, the contribution we really want to make, is something so amazing that will transform and literally disrupt the gaming world in and of itself, but not by creating an adversarial relationship, but by creating a deep connection where the gaming world will fuse with the future that we want to co-create together.
Yeah.
So thank you, Antika, for helping to facilitate this platform. And, you know, we're going to go live into our Game Changer pledges ourselves and spend our 2 hours this week in the most meaningful ways we know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are excited to do it with you.
Mm-hmm.
We really, really want to do this with you. We want you in our virtual living room and part of this movement, saying yes. And as parents, this is what we get to do. As adults, this is what we get to do, even if you don't have a kid. And so if you have the heart and the yes, we would love you to pledge $10 like we have and help us get this show on the road, and really get involved and join us here and share with 3 of your friends. And we're so honored that you joined us today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to being really regular with this virtual living room. And we'll keep you all posted on the Game Changer. It's on Facebook, the Game Changers Experience, facebook.com/Game Changers Experience. So that's where you can find us and more details about what we're up to. So thank you for joining us, and we'll keep you posted.
Bye.
Bye-bye.